Step into a world of romance and mystery with Tamora Rose. Today we're reading Chapter 3 of Child of the Wind. 15 years later, the wind whipped across the heath, flinging bits of snow and ice into her face. It was late February, and winter had yet to release its icy grip on the land. Lambing season was upon them, and one ewe in particular had apparently decided to give birth out on the heath. And while Canace would normally have allowed nature to take its course, the ewe in question was a particular favorite of hers. She was not leaving a sheep she'd raised for 2 years out on the heath alone. There was a distinct chill in the air, but Canace didn't mind. She might not like the snow and ice, but the wind. She quite enjoyed the wind. The way it cut into her flesh and wound its way through her hair. The way it chilled the fingers and froze the toes. There was something primal, almost feral about the wild winds of Scotland. She couldn't help but love the harshness of the wind. It made her feel welcome and at home when no one else did. Well, except Duncan, she supposed. A soft bleat came from somewhere to the right, and Canace turned to search for her beloved sheep, all other thoughts fleeing in her quest to find her friend. The bleating came again, this time much closer, so she slowed her pace and blinked through the snow and ice. No sheep, and yet the bleating continued. Her foot caught on something, sending her flying into a patch of heather. The bleating came sharper, slightly pain-filled, so Canace rolled off the lump and twisted about until her fingers touched the soft wool of a sheep. Her sheep. She was sure of it. But the body was still and cold, even considering the chill of the winter air. Almost panicked, she ran her hands over the fuzzy body. There were no signs of life. A tiny bleat came from under the ewe's body, giving her just a spark of hope. With a grunt, she shoved the dead sheep aside to reveal 2 tiny lambs. Neither one was moving, but at least one had made a sound. Canace picked them both up and cradled them near her chest, tucking them inside her cloak. At least one was alive, maybe both, but neither would survive if she didn't get them warm. Canace stood on shaky legs and managed a few steps before she heard a low growl. Fear crept down her spine as she turned towards the sound. At first she saw nothing, but slowly shapes emerged from the blinding snow. Wolves. They'd been attracted by the scent of sheep, and now they'd found her as well. Without a thought, she started to run. What else could she do? Even if her legs hadn't tangled in her cloak, even if she hadn't fallen to her knees, she never really had a chance. Hoping to protect the lambs, Canace curled her body around them and bit her lip, stubbornly refusing to scream. A thud and a whimper came from behind her, but Canace was too frightened to open her eyes. More growls, more whimpers, and something that sounded suspiciously like someone running across snow. She curled tighter around the lambs. Hands grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to sit up and drawing a surprised squeal from her lips. "Canace!" an angry voice snapped. "It's me!" Her eyes flew open. "Duncan! Oh, thank God! I was so afraid. What the hell are you doing out here?" He clearly wasn't happy with her and gave her a quick shake to make his point. "I've told you a dozen times not to leave Kincross without escort." If he had been anyone else, she could have just defaulted to anger. But Duncan had never been impressed by her temper. Instead, she let her amber eyes fill with tears. "Please, Duncan, don't be fierce with me." She shivered delicately, hoping to draw his sympathy. "I had to find Babe. I couldn't leave her all alone." Duncan knew damn well she was attempting to manipulate him, but he also knew she loved that sheep. The shivering didn't move him at all. He knew how she reveled in the colder weather. But there was something real about those tears. "Did you find her?" he asked quietly. Canace shook her head and extended her arms. "She's dead, but these little ones, Taking the lambs from her cold hands, he examined them gently. They're both alive, but only just. Come, let's get them back to Canace. He passed the newborns back to her. She nodded and took the lambs back, tucking them inside her cloak once more. Duncan climbed to his feet and placed one hand under her elbow, helping her to stand. It was only then that Canace saw the horse, and she sighed in relief. At least they wouldn't have to return on foot. When he lifted her into the saddle, she smiled gratefully. Once he was mounted behind her, Canace turned her body until the lambs were pressed between them. They needed heat, and they needed milk. But since she didn't have any milk, body heat would have to do for now. Evening had fallen by the time Canace tucked the little lambs into her own bed. They had been fed and washed and seemed content enough. She'd named them Malta and Una as she'd polished their delicate bodies until their short wool shone in the firelight. The three of them were ready to spend their first night together. You know we could have a shepherd look after them. Canace turned to see Duncan, Lord of Canace, standing in the doorway. I know, but I want to. We'll be fine. She expected him to leave, but when he just stood there, she frowned. Is something wrong? He sighed and entered the room, closing the door behind him. We need to have a conversation. About the lambs? She asked in surprise. No, not about the lambs. Duncan took a seat in one of the large chairs near the fire. It's just, I suddenly realized you're not a child anymore. You're 15 now and have been for some months, and there's something I have to explain to you. He was being far more cryptic than usual, making her nervous. Duncan sighed and leaned forward until his elbows rested on his knees. I know I've always treated you like you're my daughter, but you're not. I know that, and even if you hadn't told me years ago, your mother takes great delight in pointing it out. A sadness filled her heart. I know I'm a foundling. He studied the carpet. My mother is a bitch who doesn't know anything of consequence. Ignore everything she's ever said to you. The truth is, you're an orphan, not a foundling. There's quite a difference. It took a moment for what he'd just said to sink in. When it did, she jumped up from the bed. What are you talking about? You found me. Come sit. Instead of taking the chair he indicated, she sat at his feet as she'd often done as a child. When you were an infant, you were placed in my care. I was to look after you until you were 15. Her mind was reeling. But who gave me to you? My parents? Now he met her searching gaze. No, sweeting. Your parents were killed. When her face went white, he took her hands in his and told her. He didn't detail the slaughter. She was too young and too innocent for that. But he did tell her about her parents and her brothers in the most general of terms. Her eyes filled with tears when she finally looked up at him. And then you took me? No. Then King Henry thought to protect you by betrothing you to the son of one of your father's oldest friends. You were taken into his household. The plan was to have you raised with your betrothed, but a man was sent to kidnap you almost immediately. When it became clear that you were still a target, I offered to keep you safe until they caught those behind the plot to murder your family. Then I was to take you back. Now she was confused. But I'm still here. You never took me back. As far as I know, they never did solve the mystery of your parents' deaths. I couldn't very well take you back when we didn't know if you'd become a target again. None of it made any sense, but Canace didn't doubt his words. He wouldn't lie to her. Not about anything, and certainly not about this. Why are you telling me this now? What's changed? He brushed her auburn hair out of her face. Nothing and everything. Somewhere along the way, my little lass grew up. You're nearly 16, well past the age when you should have been wed. In fact, my arrangement with the Duke of Suffolk was to bring you back when you turned 15. Canace frowned. The Duke of Suffolk? I'm sorry, Duncan laughed at himself. I probably should have mentioned your intended is the Duke's younger son, not the elder. Duncan's mother had always called her an ambitious little bitch. Maybe she'd been right. What, you'd rather be a duchess? Her shrug didn't fool him. Well, I'm sorry, but you'll have to be satisfied with the rank of countess. And what about the Duke's son? Will he be satisfied as an earl? A man wouldn't normally inherit a title through his wife, but Duncan had already explained that the king had decreed her husband would become the new Earl of Barsland. Duncan shrugged. He would never have been Duke, not with his elder brother to inherit first. A Viscount, that's it for Jet unless he marries you. Jet. She rolled the name around her mouth, testing it out. What if I don't like him? I'm sure you will. I haven't seen him since he was 10 years old, but if he's anything like his father and brother, he's a decent enough young man. Duncan could see the worry in her eyes and hastened to reassure her. If you don't like him, I'll arrange to get you out of England. She looked at him skeptically. Would you really? If it would make you happy, he promised, meaning every word. Even if it means making an enemy of the king himself. That made her laugh, but it was short-lived. What if he doesn't like me? She asked, voice barely above a whisper as she stared at her lap. Duncan reached down and put a finger under her chin, tipping her face back until he could look into her golden eyes. Only a fool wouldn't like you, sweeting. You're beautiful, refined, and the daughter of a respectable earl. All you need do is keep that temper of yours under control, and he'll fall in love with you on sight. Well, then we have a problem, because my temper has a mind of its own. He chuckled at that and stood. I have to pen a letter to the Duke. We'll leave here in a month, maybe 2. We won't rush it, so you may not meet your betrothed until summer. Canace nodded and stood, brushing out her skirts. Before Duncan could leave, she reached up and placed a kiss on his cheek. Thank you for telling me. I'll miss you, my little lass, he whispered as he put an arm about her. Alarmed, she pulled away. But you're coming with me. You won't miss me. I'll take you to young Jet, of course. But after the wedding, I highly doubt your new husband will want your old guardian hovering about. I also have duties here. I can't be away indefinitely. Now that she understood. He couldn't abandon his people to stay with her in England. Her eyes welled with tears at the thought. No tears, little lass. He brushed at her cheeks with his thumbs. All little girls grow up. He was right, so she dried her eyes and stood back. Well, I should prepare for bed. I have to feed the lambs in just 2 more hours. With a nod, Duncan moved to the door. Just before he closed the door, Canace spoke again. I'm taking the lambs. Where? To England. They're mine, and I'm taking them with me. And my dog. The stubborn set of her jaw and her thinning mouth told him she was serious. He might have argued, but it was late and he was tired. Fine. There was more than a little sarcasm in his tone. We'll haul 2 sheep and a dog who doesn't listen to anyone all the way to London. Her sweet smile melted his heart. Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. His sigh could be heard all the way across the room. I don't even know where the damn dog is. He'll turn up. He always does. It was true. No matter where Bentley went, no matter how long he was gone, he always came back, finding his way back to Canace with unerring accuracy. If he turns up before we leave for London, we'll take him with us. I'll think about the lambs. Duncan started to close the door again. Go to sleep, sweeting. Confident she would get her way, Canace just smiled at him. Once the door was secured, she quickly divested herself of her clothing until she was left in just her shift. As she crawled into the bed beside the sleeping lambs, her last thought was of her future husband. She wondered what he looked like and what he thought she looked like. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this chapter, stay tuned for more tales of romance. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with passion and just a touch of magic.